Hey, and welcome to this week's edition of the Ride Along Radio Show. I'm George Holt.
I'm Gil Contreras, adjusting my mic.
Yes, we're adjusting our things here. Hey, and I'm back. And now we're both here together.
Yeah.
And we will have some guests joining us later. But welcome to the Ride Along Radio Show. This is show number 33, dude.
Wow.
33, man. Yeah, we've been at this for a little bit now. Just a little bit. And if you're just now joining us or you're joining us for the first time, this is a show where we try to give you the experience of riding in a virtual police car with two law enforcement veterans, and you'll get the benefit of our experience, our training, and our opinions on matters. And hopefully that's what you're tuning in for.
That are based on more than how we feel about stuff.
Well, it's what things we've learned, is what we've seen, right? And how we interpret those things that we've seen. And so we try to pass that on. So again, that's what I'd like to think. That's why people tune in, because they know that we have perspective that you're probably not going to get other places on the events of the day.
At least not from a law enforcement perspective.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
You can get a journalist perspective, an activist perspective on any channel, but from actual guys who work the field and understand things.
And who are not under orders from the chief of police to feed you the party line.
Right.
Who don't have to stay on message about anything that the department wants to get out there or not get out there, et cetera.
Are not politically correct.
Right, because we don't care about any of that. We really don't. So, and if you'd like to call in and share your thoughts with us about any of the things we say or have said, 323-293-3375. You can send us a tweet at Ride Along Radio. Okay, so our last show, the one that Gil so gamely captained from here by himself while I was out in Dallas, and our guest David Cruz, who was out and about in L.A., was on the Orlando terrorist attack. And we didn't get any pushback on that, not that I saw at least, and I've been checking the different platforms. When I say pushback, I should say feedback, because everything's not going to be pushback. Some stuff is just going to be feedback.
It's interesting to me that we used to get pushback.
We did, and
I think people understand us now a little bit better.
That may be what it is.
And we don't get as much pushback. We still get comments, but we don't get as much.
We did, right. That's what I'm saying. So LT Ward did give us, hey, great show, guys. He did give us, that was good feedback. But in terms of people taking it, I mean, and really, there's really not a whole lot with that topic in particular you could take exception to. I think some of the main points we were on the same sheet of music about. We differed later on in the show about certain things,
right,
and how certain things should be handled. But it doesn't mean that we're not on the same sheet of music in terms of this. That was certainly a terrorist attack, and there were certainly people that died that shouldn't have died, and maybe there's some criticism of that response that we're going to get into later. But I understand we have a segment we're going to get into before we get into that.
Oh, well, I thought we were going to, after
we can do this. We can do the Orlando thing first.
Yeah, well, let's do that.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, so that's actually a better segue. So, excuse me. There was actually criticism of the Orlando PD response to Omar Mateen's terrorist attack last, or I guess it was a weekend before last now.
Right.
And some of that criticism was the police waited too long to take action. And I've had friends of mine who are current police officers say, yeah, I need to know why that took so long. There are people who say that some of those shots that killed some of those hostages may have been fired by the police. And of course, we won't know that until autopsies are completed. And even then, it honestly could be inconclusive if those are passed through wounds, and there's no.
I think the number of rounds that the officers fired when they engaged was a crowded club. It was dark.
Yes.
I think the possibility is pretty
the possibility
strong.
Does exist. Yeah, and I won't be shocked at all. And there will be people who are outraged about that, or maybe those who will feign outrage for whatever political purpose. But the fact of the matter is, this is one of those things where we say police work isn't pretty. They're going in to shoot at a terrorist who's killing people. He's shooting at them. They're going to put rounds down.
Right.
These bullets are going to go where you put them, but under stress, under stress, who's to say?
Yeah.
You're trying to fire rounds. You're trying to stop that suspect. And here's the thing. The way it turned out, those people those people who were that close to that suspect, they were probably going to be gone anyway. And I hate to say that, and it doesn't excuse and doesn't mitigate any damages that may come about because of this. But I hope that people wouldn't get angry and blame the police, because what were they supposed to do? Not shoot back, and then they get killed, and then the people still get killed anyway? I mean, it was kind of one of those things. So we do have some footage of some of the criticism that's been leveled at the Orlando Police Department, and some people asking why did it take so long. And there's actually a pretty decent explanation as to why it took so long to wrap that siege up. So we can roll that first video, and then we'll come back and talk about that.
As we learn more details about the massacre in Orlando, many are asking, why did it take police 3 hours to end the bloody siege? Christine Leinonen lost her son in the shooting.
I don't understand why the police took so long to get in there while our kids were in there.
After the Columbine tragedy in 1999, law enforcement changed tactics, deciding shooters had to be taken down immediately rather than wait for SWAT teams to assemble. But former NYPD hostage negotiator Wally Zion says cops also need to be flexible.
If you have an active shooter that you have shots fired, usually the SWAT team will go in. But in this type of situation, they had quite a few different variables.
After gunfire erupted at 2 a.m., police made a critical decision to back off. They knew there were dozens, perhaps hundreds of potential hostages inside. On the phone talking to cops, the shooter hinted that he also had a bomb.
They have to regroup and think. You have 300 people in there, you have injured people in there. If an explosion goes off, you can have a mass casualty incident.
At 5 a.m., the decision was made to go in, breaking through a wall in the nightclub with a Bearcat. Hostages ran out, but so did Omar Mateen. Cops mowed him down.
The longer the negotiation, the better chances of a successful outcome. I think and I believe that they made the right decision based upon they had negotiations going on during that time period.
Now we're learning that the deadly massacre could have been even worse. Omar Mateen tried to purchase body armor, which could have deflected the police bullets. So how hard is it to buy body armor?
Okay.
We had no problems finding it online. All we had to do was provide a driver's license.
So that part of the video goes into how easy it is for people to buy body armor, or where it's restricted, et cetera, et cetera. And pretty much that's, as long as you're not a felon, or as long as you say you're not a felon, you can get body armor. But you know, also you can just buy it on eBay too.
Right. Yeah, I was at the gun show in Costa Mesa a couple weeks ago, and I bought a level 3A soft plate.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I mean, that's there. So in terms of that criticism, you know, the joke used to be that SWAT actually stood for sit, wait, and talk, right? Because you would bring in a hostage situation, you would bring in a negotiator once you realize this is what we have.
Right.
We have a hostage situation, and once you have the subject contained, and once you've established communication, et cetera, then someone who's trained in negotiation needs to come in, because there's all kind of stuff that goes through people's minds, and you know, the idea is preservation of life, and that means the suspect's life too, in that we're trying to get that person to surrender peacefully, so that number one, the hostages aren't hurt, and this is actually the order, by the way, in case you're ever curious, that the hostages aren't hurt, the police aren't hurt, and the suspect isn't hurt. Clearly, the suspect comes last,
right,
in this scenario. So, you know, they're trying to do that in a way that goes along with protocol, in a way that's proven to be effective before. And honestly, once everything's slowed down and he's holed up with hostages, you'd be remiss not to try that option. So they had to try.
Right.
The question is, did it go on too long? And, you know, I'm sure there'll be after action reports. There's definitely going to be lawsuits. And then we'll be able to get to the bottom of, did they wait too long? I mean, because there's certain things that are going to cause the police to say, you know what, this isn't working. Mm-hmm. We need to get in there and put bullets on him.
But it's not like it's not like for 3 hours the guy was in there shooting people.
Right, exactly.
So, and I think that, you know, while they were in negotiations, had he begun to shoot people again, it would have switched right back from hostage negotiation to dynamic entry.
Right, exactly. And there's no doubt in my mind that they had what we call a crisis entry team staged somewhere nearby. And those aren't the guys back at the command post looking at whiteboards and making up plans. They're there with their helmets on already, standing up, staged, ready to rush in to effect a hostage rescue once things go south.
Right.
Because the subject could do just what Gil said. He could just start cranking rounds off without even saying anything. At that point, we got to get in on top of him. You also have a situation where there were people who were wounded. Clearly, there were people in the bathroom wounded and maybe who were bleeding out.
Right.
And that's something else they have to take into consideration. They can't sit around all day and wait till people bleed out, the people who've already been shot. But then you also don't want to compound that situation by forcing his hand and having him start shooting people because he's panicking, you know?
Right.
There's a fine line there, and I guess you're always going to get second guessed. And then the families of those who did not make it are rightfully going to want to have some questions answered.
Right. And, you know, one of the things I talked about with David last week, and I've talked with him about this in previous shooting cases, and that is carrying a, you know, what the military calls a blowout kit, but
right.
It could be, you can call it whatever you want to, but a way for you to stop the bleeding. You know, it was to me, it was just astounding to hear that people were texting their friends and their family saying,
goodbye.
I think I'm dying, I'm bleeding out.
Sure.
I had no way to stop it or no knowledge that they could even try to stop it.
Well, that's the thing, and that's why I say that have the equipment and have the training to use the equipment, because honestly, I'd rather have the training and not the equipment than the equipment and not the training. Right. Because if I have the training and I have an understanding of what the equipment is supposed to do, then maybe I can hook something else up to do that job, right? We always talk about, and we mentioned this last week, you may not have a tourniquet on you, but you may have a belt on you. You may have shoelaces on you. They may have something that you can use to help slow down that loss of blood, because that's what's going to kill you more than anything else, because that's going to lead to shock, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. I remember the first time I heard this, and I thought it was so profound, and I used to use it in my classrooms when I used to teach. And that is, people don't die from getting shot; they die from major organ damage and blood loss.
Right, exactly, right. So it's not that they're allergic to the bullet.
Right.
It's just the damage that the bullet does. Right. So, and that's why it's so important that you do have the equipment and you do have the training, and really, you know, you really want to have both ideally.
Right, and this kind of ties into a guest that's coming on in just a couple minutes here, and that is one of the things that we've learned from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan is that they increased their survivability from gunshot wounds by having these medic kits right on each individual
yes, exactly.
Soldier.
An IFAC, individual first aid kit.
Correct. So if you're shot, I can pull your kit right off of you. And
my kit. He's not going to use his own kit. He uses my kit because it's assigned to me. That's the way that works.
So with everybody, you know, everybody knows you have 3 minutes to bleed out. So if I can stop the bleeding and stabilize you, I might be able to stabilize you long enough to get you on a helicopter and get you someplace, and you know, and there's all kind of blood stopping agents, etc. And now law enforcement agencies are carrying blowout kits.
Oh yeah,
individual officers are carrying them.
Yeah, we had trauma kits in the cars back at my first agency. I left there in 2003, and you figure at around 2000 they started putting. Actually, you know when it was after North Hollywood.
Right.
After North Hollywood, they started putting these trauma kits in the cars. They weren't as advanced as they are now.
Right.
Tourniquet management wasn't as understood as it is now. So there was no tourniquets in there, but there was gauze, hemostatic gauze, stuff like that, right? Rubber gloves, things like that. And we knew that wasn't for if we ran across a gunshot victim in the street. There's something in the trunk for that. That kit was for the officers, which is why we kept it in the cab of the car, where the officers could get to it without having to go to the trunk. So you know, another thing I thought about, and this is, you know, not for nothing, I'm not trying to make any disparaging comments, but one of the things that one of the victims who was rescued talked about was that one of the rescuers, one of the SWAT officers, pulled him out of there, and he dragged him across the broken glass. And the broken glass, some of it was already bloody, right? And now he's being shredded up with this bloody glass. You know what I mean? The victim.
Oh, the victim.
The victim lived. He's telling his story.
Right.
And he's talking about how he's being shredded up with this glass that's already got blood on it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's just kind of like, wow, man, that's like the worst case scenario that you can think of. You know, it's just asking for something that you maybe won't find out about till later. You know.
Right.
It's just terrible. So I hope that dude is okay. But yeah, I mean, that was, so you saw the people asking questions about that. Hopefully we've kind of answered some questions in terms of why they would wait so long. But, you know, had they rushed in and shot up a bunch of people, then there'd be a criticism there, right?
Yeah, they would want to know why they didn't wait and try to talk
Why
them
didn't
out.
you wait?
Yeah.
Right. Because you know what? Terrorists sometimes do have demands. they don't always just come in and just start lighting stuff up. Sometimes they actually do have something they want to say or something they're trying to accomplish.
Well, they used to in the 60s, you know. They
60s and 70s, they were hijacking planes.
Yeah, they wanted stuff. There was a reason. And then this new threat we're facing, though, is totally different.
Well, that's why this kind of, maybe they thought maybe it wasn't your standard Tango hit, because he actually holed up and was on the phone talking to people.
Yeah.
As opposed to just coming in, doing his thing and killing himself or blowing himself up.
Right.
You know, he was the one who started making phone calls to news outlets, actually.
Right.
So kind of an odd thing, but that just goes to show you, and this is why we train for so many different scenarios, because you never know what you're going to get, which is one of the things I loved about the job, actually, was that you get in the car every day and it's different.
Yeah.
You're not sitting in a cubicle where the view never changes. You don't know. You don't even know what time you're really getting off that night, because things could change, right? Especially when you say, I need to get off on time. Then something always happens, right?
And it's funny, you know, the crazier it got, the more we loved it.
Yeah, exactly. The more time flew, man. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I'm sure there'll be more on the Orlando shooting in the weeks to come for us.
Well, as we get autopsy results, et cetera, for sure.
And, you know, just the last thing I want to mention about it is, you know, I'm just baffled by this unwillingness by the Obama administration and the Attorney General to not call it a terrorist attack. You know, she actually said, what's her name? Not Valerie Jarrett, but
no, that's Loretta Lynch.
Loretta Lynch actually said today they weren't sure. They weren't sure what his motivation was. So.
Okay, well, because he could say one thing and then be another, but by that time everybody already knew.
Right.
By the time they decided to redact the comments, the transcript, which I thought was way out of line. I don't need you to redact anything. Just tell me what it is. Tell me what he said. And then we'll make up our own mind.
Especially when we already know.
That's right.
We all knew.
But even if you have any doubt, it doesn't matter. Just let me know what was actually said. I don't need you to redact anything. This is in 1984.
So that's why I put on my, my Facebook page. If the White House was confused, or if the DOJ was confused, they could just call my little firm in El Segundo. We can help them out. We'll have them figured out.
Give them some guidance. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So we're going to.
We've got a guest by phone, and her name is Stephanie Howard. Stephanie is a producer, and she's working on a documentary called The Weight of Honor. And I want to bring her on to talk about this because they're in fundraising for this project. And I thought it was an interesting project, so I wanted to have her on to talk about it real quick. So, Stephanie, are you there?
I am here. Hi, Gil. Hi, George.
Hello. Hi, Stephanie.
Hey, thanks for I know you guys had a busy day today, and you've been working on this project, and they got you moving around a lot, so I appreciate your time.
You know what? Thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to be with you.
Well, listen, tell us a little bit about the project. What's the documentary actually about, and then how did it come about for you?
Well, the film is about the families who are caring for their wounded who've returned from Iraq and Afghanistan. And what we're doing is shedding a light on really the unsung heroes. We're talking about over 1 million families are caregivers just of this population, just from the wounded coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. And it's what we don't know in the civilian community is that these people exist. We're talking about spouses, we're talking about parents, siblings, children, who are taking care of, say, someone who comes home with amputated limbs or severe burns, a lot of times both, PTSD, traumatic brain injury. So what do these people have to go through? Because once the VA says you're not critical, we're going to send you home. You have outpatient, but your family members are going to be the ones who have to cope with your wounds.
Wow. And so you actually have taken cameras out and spent some time with some of these folks. Can you tell us what you encountered when you did that, and then we'll run the trailer real quick.
Okay. What I encountered is, it took a while. The military community is a pretty closed community, and then when you look at these families who are caregivers, they're very private. And sometimes it took me 3 or 4 different sources who would help me find a family who would be willing to let us come in with our cameras. What I found is once we got set up, a lot of these caregivers just broke down, and they were pouring out their emotions. And, they're crying, I'm crying, I got the cameraman in back of me trying not to be audibly crying. Right. And what they've said to me after we finished, and I say, look, I didn't come here to take advantage of you and to just get good pictures. And they've said, no, this has really helped me because no one has asked me these questions.
Wow.
So it becomes almost cathartic for them. Does that make sense?
Sure,
yes,
definitely.
Yes.
And people are so kind. I've become friends with all these families, and it's really good to know these people because they have the biggest hearts, and they're so brave, and they're so courageous, and I'm just inspired by them.
Well, Stephanie, I when I was made aware of it by your husband, I just thought, I saw some of the clips, and it just moved me, and I just thought, wow, this is a very cool project. And I know you've been doing major media on this, so I really do appreciate you being here. So we're going to run a bit of your trailer just so people can get a feel for what the documentary is going to be about. So let's go ahead and run that clip now.
Okay.
And I'm the director and producer of the film The Weight of Honor. About 4 years ago, I realized that we haven't heard very much about the families who are caring for their wounded who've returned from war in Iraq and Afghanistan. I did some research, I did a lot of digging, and I found some of the most remarkable men and women and children who have the strength and the resilience to get through more than I could have imagined. And their lives are changed just as much as their wounded loved ones. They have stories that we all need to hear.
They can describe down to the very finest detail of what's in that room, but until you actually see it, there's no way to make somebody understand that.
Even though he was critical, nobody told us that.
They brought us there to say goodbye because they didn't think that he was coming home.
I don't think any military wife from Iraq or Afghanistan ever thought that they'd come home injured.
Service members were surviving catastrophic injuries.
They're saving people that otherwise would have died. They keep getting better at that.
Those beautiful blue eyes pop open, and he has a respirator in, and he's like, Mom.
I'm gonna have to go back into a state of where I was as a child. My mother basically taking care of everything for me.
We have people who are surviving with what we would call invisible wounds.
These are really young spouses, young. We're talking 20 years old who already have a child and now are in this caregiving role.
It's no longer this husband-wife relationship. You're actually the person who's keeping the other person alive.
You're not dealing with somebody wounded and a caregiver. You're dealing with two wounded people.
The person, if they're married, the chances of them remaining married for a long period of time are very, very slim.
How he says it is he just fell out of love with me.
They took their first steps within a couple weeks of each other.
With my needs, those should change. I should get better at being handicapped.
Wow, that is some powerful imagery, Stephanie.
Thank you. I can't really take credit for it. Quite honestly, I can't.
Well, Stephanie, what drew you to this story? I mean, how did you become aware of this situation? How did it come to your attention?
Well, some of these things just sort of, I don't know if they're meant to happen. I got to be friends with a woman who actually lives around the corner from me, and we didn't know one another until my husband Roger, who is working on the film with me, was doing a story with her for, at the time, KTTV Channel 11. And she has her own nonprofit that works with wounded and some of the plastic surgery and dental work that they need that the VA won't cover. We got to be really good friends, and one day, not too long after they had some of the guys in to do some public speaking, I said, I know there's a story here. A lot of people are doing movies and stories about the vets, and I don't want to take anything away from that, but there's another story here. And she said, well, no one has done anything about the caregivers. And right away I thought, what, the nurses and doctors? And she said, no, the families who are taking care of them.
Sure.
And a light bulb went on. I said, well, if I didn't know about it, not that I'm so necessarily well-read, if I didn't know about it, then what about other people?
Right.
So the goal is to bring this to the civilian audience, like I said before, and to have that awareness. But as any story, you need to follow where it will take you. And over the past 4 years, we've kind of followed some of the same families, not all of them, some of them. And relationships have changed in ways we never could have predicted. And the heart of the film I mentioned in the trailer is really that these are courageous people. And we all have tragedy in our lives. We all have obstacles in our lives. And you can't compare anything that's happened to you to what may have happened with other people.
Right.
But you can take that little piece of knowledge from this film and apply it to yourself and find ways that you can be resilient and you can be courageous and you can be brave and maybe find some more peace in yourself.
Well, Stephanie, is the VA or are they helping the families, or are they just providing benefits to the veteran himself, or how does that work?
That was my question, yeah.
Yeah, there are many programs that provide that. There are more now, I think, because we have had a lot of caregivers really push, and they've organized and they've really pushed for it. For example, there is a monthly stipend if you're a caregiver. The snag on that is it depends on the level of disability of your vet, and the VA determines that. There are programs to assist, but I know, for example, one of the families has 5 children, and 2 of them are toddlers, and every time they would have to go for appointments, and even emergency appointments, they had to drag the kids with them, in the middle of the night in their pajamas,
right,
because there was no daycare. If they couldn't call a relative or someone in the middle of the night, and they don't live near any relatives. So one of my points was, well, can the VA develop daycare at their facilities? And they're so overwhelmed with so much, that's just not possible. And I imagine you do have a lot of liability issues there. So that was the long answer to a very short question. I think the VA is doing better, but of course it has a lot of workload issues, and our film can't really touch on that because, quite honestly, that's a documentary that could take a week to air. I mean, it's another story. We do touch on it as it happens, as it affects some of the individuals in the film.
Yeah. Well, Stephanie, I just think it's a great project, and I know that you're in fundraising phase right now to get this thing. So where are we with fundraising?
Well, right now we have what's called a crowdsourcing campaign on the internet. It's an Indiegogo campaign. And if you go to theweightofhonormovie.com, it will take you right to that campaign. We need to raise, our goal is $23,000, and we need to get at least half of that. We've extended our campaign because this is PTSD Awareness Month. So we've extended all the way through the 4th of July. And what we need is for people to go to that site. If they can donate, that's wonderful. Even if you can donate $1, that's great. And if not, then please share what we're posting on Facebook or what you see even being, or share the page, that kind of thing.
And that's really huge, because a lot of people don't realize. They may say, well, I can't do it right now. But someone in your circle probably can.
Right.
And so if you can put that out to however many hundreds of Facebook friends people typically have, and get the word out, it'd be very helpful.
That's it. And one other thing, and I know we're a little short on time, one of the levels of thank yous, one of the levels of gifts would go to businesses if they would sponsor a screening. And I would think that a lot of your listeners, viewers, would know a lot of these businesses and could go to them and say, hey, why not, sorry, it's another phone, hey, why not go to this Indiegogo page, go ahead and make this donation, and then you can be the sponsor of a screening wherever, you are, and then we could bring in an audience when we do go to screenings, and that will be early next year.
Wow, that'd be great.
Yeah, really, that's a great idea.
Something to look at.
For sure.
I'd love to be involved in something like that.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds great.
Well, Stephanie, thanks for taking the time to tell us about the project, and I know we're going to have intern Darren post all your links on our media pages, and I looked at the page again today and saw the various levels of support that one can give, and I just want you to know I plan to give something at one of those levels that I saw. I think it's a great project, and I thank you for your work, you and Raj both.
Thank you very, very much. And we'll be sharing your media on our social media as well.
Great. Yes, thanks. It was nice having you, Stephanie.
Thanks very much. Have
Thanks
a
for
good
joining
rest
us,
of the
Stephanie.
show.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
So that was Stephanie Howard, producer of the documentary The Weight of Honor, and just a great project.
We're going to take a break in a minute, but before we do, I want to touch on our last news of the day subject, because this is something that is we've been following it from the very beginning, and it's something that we said was going to happen, and it happened today. Is that Officer Cesar Goodson of the Baltimore Police Department was acquitted of the charge of depraved heart murder in Freddie. And that's a charge that sounds crazy to us, you know, but in their murder trial for Freddie Gray, and you know, we called this when Edward Nero was cleared a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a month ago.
But even before then, that was
people had been calling it, but I mean, we called it on the air,
right?
Because we knew that he was up next. And here's the thing: if that's bad news to you, I got more bad news for you. This was the strongest case that they had, and Officer Goodson was the one they said was responsible because he did not seatbelt Freddie Gray in, and they said that he gave him a rough ride, and that's what caused the extensive damage to his cervical spine, right, and that caused his death ultimately. Now, somebody or a combination of somebody or factors or a combination of factors are certainly to blame, because this is an otherwise healthy young man who was running earlier, and then 2 hours later he's, you know, in a state where he can't respond. So I understand the need for accountability. But as a prosecutor, even though you're an elected official, Marilyn Mosby, you can't just say, I'm going to throw these people to the wolves, right, because the electorate wants me to throw these people to the wolves. Because here's what's happened. The first officer, William Porter, hung jury. The second officer, Edward Nero, not guilty. And now you got your third out of 6 officer, your strongest case, Cesar Goodson, not guilty. And now he's going to apply to get his job back and get his. I think he's still. I don't think he's fired, but he can apply for his back pay, et cetera, et cetera. And the other cases aren't looking too hot either, because this was the strongest one.
Right.
And there are people who are now calling for the charges against the remaining officers to be dropped. I'm not sure how I feel about that, and here's why. Although they probably will drop them because they don't want the embarrassment of going 6-0.
Right.
You know. But here's the thing. Officer Edward Nero can never be charged or tried for this again. Officer Cesar Goodson can never be charged or tried for this again under double jeopardy. Officer William Porter, though, had a hung jury, and his trial is going to be rescheduled after this.
Right.
And the 3 remaining, the female sergeant Alicia White, and I don't have the other 2 names in front of me. I thought I had them in memory, but apparently I don't. If they say we're not going to charge you because we're talking about depraved heart murder, they can come back whenever and come at them again to get another bite at the apple. If I was those officers, I think I would consider demanding that I be tried just to get it out of the way, just to make sure it's locked down, it's done, and you can go on with your life. This is very political, and the outcome is predictable.
I don't know about that.
That's a roll of the dice, but is it not a roll of the dice to leave it hanging over your head the rest of your life, too?
Well, I don't know about the rest of your life. I doubt in 10 years you're going to get a new DA who has new exculpatory evidence and can...
I doubt it, too. But you know who can sleep now? Ed Nero can sleep, and Cesar Goodson can sleep.
Well, I think all these officers can sleep because we knew this was a BS case from the gate. They didn't have the elements of the crime that they were trying to allege. It was politically motivated. Everybody knows that. She rushed to judgment. She wanted to throw them to the Black Lives Matter wolves, and she lost.
And here's what I think, too.
And as she should have lost, because when you understand elements of the crime, probable cause, beyond a reasonable doubt, when you understand those terms, what they actually mean in a courtroom, which we do, then you understand, well, you can look at a case from the media reports and go, well, I think they have a good case, or I don't think this is going to fly.
Well, let me say this, and I'll read you the exact quote from the judge when he came back with the not guilty, because this is a trial by a judge, not by a jury. Those 6 officers, they probably thought, there's something here. Let's get all 6 of them together, not together, separately. Let's scoop them all up.
Hope they turn. Somebody turns.
Do we do what we do with crooks? Let's split them up and get somebody to flip and snitch, right?
Yeah.
And if there's something going on, somebody's going to flip and snitch. They're just going to do it. You could have 6 hardened criminals and somebody's going to snitch.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you get 6 cops who aren't hardened criminals and whom the prospect of prison is not a walk in the park. Somebody's going to give somebody up. But apparently there's no there. because nobody tried to cut a deal or anything. Everybody said, well, put me on trial then, which was great, which was smart, because now they're being proved not guilty.
Because most of them knew they didn't have anything to do with it, for God's sake.
They knew what their criminal exposure was, their criminal liability, and it was zero.
Right.
Let me read what the judge said in coming up, not guilty for Officer Cesar Goodson. The failure to seatbelt may have been a mistake, or it may have been bad judgment, but without showing more than has been presented to the court concerning the failure to seatbelt and the surrounding circumstances, the state has failed to meet its burden to show that the actions of the defendant rose above mere civil negligence, Williams said. Now, of course, that leaves open the door for a lawsuit.
Right.
But that's going to happen anyway. And obviously, like I said earlier, something happened that wasn't supposed to happen. If someone who was healthy enough to run away from the police ends up with their neck broken 2 days, 2 hours later, and then a week later they're dead, clearly something happened that wasn't supposed to happen while that person was in the care and custody of the Baltimore Police Department.
Right.
There's going to be civil liability. There's going to be a civil suit, as there should be. It doesn't mean that there was depraved heart murder.
Correct. Right.
I'm actually going to be kind of sad when this is all over, because we won't have any excuse to say depraved heart murder anymore, because I don't think any other state uses that ridiculous term.
Well, I just want to read it real quick. This was a comment on my Facebook page that I posted earlier about this case. And this person wrote, "Don't confuse the police officer's not guilty verdict as innocence. A suspect was taken into custody and dies before booking. There's something wrong with that. What happened today is not justice, just the maintenance of the status quo." And I think there's a lot of people that feel that.
Sure, there are. Sure, and I understand that. I understand that people feel that way. But if you look at the facts, and if you look at the fact that sometimes stuff goes wrong, and it doesn't mean that it was depraved heart murder, then yeah, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be some accountability. There certainly should be. But depraved heart murder is another thing, man.
Right, and being a criminal is a tough job.
Well, that too.
It's rough. You run the risk.
They're occupational hazards. You could
absolutely
something could happen to you.
We get up every day and we say we got to go to work, got to go to school. Oh, we got to drop off the kids. Let me pick up the. That's what we do.
Right.
Criminals wake up every day and go, okay, who am I going to go rob? What dope am I going to
victimize?
What gun should I carry today? Where am I? That's what they do. So that's a tough job.
Occupational hazard.
Yeah.
Not saying that he deserved to be a victim of depraved heart murder, but I don't think he was.
Right.
So there it is. All right, so we're going to go to break, and when we come back, we're going to get into our topic today, which is the Oakland PD underage sex trafficking scandal. And
Oakland
we have
PD.
a very special in-studio guest who is going to talk about the efforts her nonprofit is making to help support those who've been the victims of sex trafficking. And I think that you'll find that endeavor pretty interesting, and hopefully you'll be willing to support that as well. So we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back at it. All right, and welcome back to the Ride Along Radio Show, the show where we give you the perspective of two grizzled police veterans who are salty as the deep blue sea, and as we talk about topics of the day. Calling number is 323-293-3375. We had a comment in the chat room from Ricardo Brisky. What's up, Ricardo? And he wants to know where he can get a blowout kit like the one Gil's been talking about. I have one resource for you. You can go to this website, www.solutionsgroupinternational.com. That's solutions plural, the word group, international, all spelled out.com, and click on the gear tab, and you will see you'll see the gear tab fall down, and you'll see we have trauma kits. I'm sorry, they have we have trauma kits there. VTK, which is a vehicle trauma kit, which has got a tourniquet. It's got Celox, blood stoppers, hemostatic gauze, nitrile gloves, et cetera, and you can order it in a variety. If you want the full blowout kit, our pricing on that's $134. If you want the kit and you want to package yourself, then it's much less. So there's different options on there.
Right.
And you got to have a blowout kit.
Yeah, but you don't have to have the cool SWAT one.
That's what we sell.
Yeah. But I think everybody in their backpack. I think we're in a different day now, and if you don't have a way to stop the bleeding wherever you are, doing whatever it is you're doing, especially now that we know that soft targets are now the priority on the list.
Exactly.
And you can find yourself in the middle of a shooting, and then when the shooting stops and the suspect either leaves or kills himself because the cops are there, when law enforcement gets there, they're going to run right past you to try to clear the building.
Exactly, because you're not the priority at that point.
That's right. So being able to stop the bleeding, for yourself or your loved ones, and because I do canine, so I'm always thinking about my safety and my dog's safety.
Right, for sure.
My dog's injured. I need to be able to stop the bleeding and get her to the emergency room.
Exactly right. Okay, so you'll notice that we have a guest here in the studio, and we're going to jump into our topic, but I want to let the guest introduce herself and her organization, then we'll get into the topic, and then we'll play some video that she's presented for us to show you. So our guest is Erin Umphenour from She Is.
Yes.
And if you can tell us a little bit about your background in the organization.
I'm the events coordinator for our organization. It is called She Is. We are a local nonprofit here in Los Angeles, and our mission is to provide a safe and supportive environment where survivors of sexual abuse can strengthen their true worth through the power of dance. So we provide dance classes. We link up with local nonprofits here in Los Angeles, and we go in and help in the aftercare, providing dance classes with them to help them heal through the trauma of their abuse.
And while I was studying up on this, it seems like there is real healing power in dance. And I hear people talk about how therapeutic it is, not just for your body, but also I guess it's kind of a cathartic sort of a thing, right?
Sure, definitely. I mean, dancing makes everybody feel good, right? Everybody feels
if
good
you can
dancing.
Dance.
Yeah.
If you can dance, sure.
Even if you can't, just getting.
Well, yeah, because I've seen some people who can't dance out there just having a blast.
Exactly.
So yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and going through therapy is not, for children or for anybody is not always the most exciting, obviously,
right.
thing, and it's really
not
tough.
Fun for sure.
It's not. So dancing is a different way that we provide therapy where they can sort of forget about their issues and express themselves and their bodies and just have more fun and feel better about their bodies.
Okay. Producer, actually, can we jump to the video for the organization since we've done the intro, and then we can then we'll get to our topic. But I want to kind of lay the groundwork for why you're here and the relevance of that. So here's the video. You can introduce the video.
So this is.
Hi, my name is Zuzana Lova, and I am the director of She Is, the documentary. We are a Los Angeles-based nonprofit, and we work with girls rescued from sex trafficking. We partner up with existing organizations who rescue these girls, and we come in aftercare and we teach them dance. We are basically a group of professional dancers who have worked on TV and film with artists such as Lady Gaga, Janet Jackson, Kanye West, Robin Thicke, and others. And dance has been very healing for all of us through our lives. So we decided to give back and teach these young survivors how dance can be healing for them. I don't think people realize how enormous human trafficking is. At this point, there are about 27 million people trafficked and 2 million children exploited by the sex trade. People usually tend to believe it's an issue of another country, but trafficking happens as much in the United States as anywhere else in the world. I joined She Is about a year ago, and I started teaching right away at shelters in Los Angeles, and I also got to go to Thailand on our mission trip. Now, this whole experience has been absolutely life-changing for me. Meeting these young survivors, working with them, getting to know all the rescue people and volunteers, I have been basically submerged into this whole new world. And we decided this would be an amazing documentary. Now, what we want to portray through our movie is a message of hope and of beauty and of healing through the arts. We will shoot this documentary in 3 places: United States, Thailand, and India. In each country, we will follow a young survivor through their journey of recovery and show you how dance became a powerful healing tool in their lives. The reason why dance is so important to these young survivors is it helps them connect back with their body and their emotions. Any survivor of sexual abuse or sex trafficking has a very negative connection with their body. All it ever brought them is pain and suffering. So when we come to work with these young girls, what we are aiming to do is help them reconnect with their body, provide a safe place where they can express their feelings, and show them that they can have a positive experience through their body. Our goal is $35,000, which would provide us money for travel, cinematographer, gear, and for
Okay. So, and we'll get to your fundraising site here before we wrap up with you here today, because I think that's a worthy cause, and I think that people can definitely help out and will help out. Again, as we said before, even if it's only through sharing by their own social media, and I know that I will certainly be doing that as soon as I get back onto my social media here. Okay, so with sex trafficking, one of the things that was said in the video is that it's not just a problem with other countries; it's something that happens here. Mm-hmm. And I think that people don't realize what sex trafficking really encompasses. I think people are thinking about children being put in shipping containers and sent off across the water someplace, or brought from another country here to be sex workers. And they're not really thinking about what we see on the streets here and in the hotels and motels right here in Southern California all the time. And I think that when you say sex trafficking, people think of Thailand. People think of the Philippines. They don't really think of that's happening right here.
Sure.
Right? Mm-hmm. And clearly it is. So now most of the victims that your organization works with, are they're from here, or are they from other countries, or are they just from all over this country? Or
well, we've done both. So we do work here locally, and the kids that we work with here, they're children who have been rescued from abusive homes, or have maybe actually been rescued from trafficking, but we're here in the United States. We have been to Thailand, as you saw in the video, and there people do think, when they think of trafficking and sex slavery, they do think Thailand, because it's legal over there, and it's a big it's just a huge industry
right
over there. Here, just in Las Vegas, there are parts where it might be legal, but many of the prostitution that you see here in the United States, many of those women they're forced into it. They cannot leave. People really think that when you see a prostitute, that it was her choice, that she's there.
Right, and that's one of the things that you hear if you look at any of the documentaries where they interview pimps or whatever. One of the things I like to say is, this isn't done by force; it's done by choice. Mm-hmm. And we know that includes manipulation, both mental manipulation and physical intimidation, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that part of the mind control game is that they have manipulated the victim into thinking it was their choice, because people can do that too.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So and it's in one of the cities on the West Coast where we have had a major problem with this sort of thing in terms of the activities of pimping, pandering, et cetera, has been Oakland in the Bay Area. And the Oakland Police Department has actually had a really good reputation in terms of cracking down on that sort of thing. They know it goes on. It's been going on in the Bay Area for a very long time at a very high level. We had the Presidio was up there, right? The Army base. Right. The Presidio was up there. There's just a lot of military in and out of the area. Historically, there was, not so much anymore. And whenever you have that, you're going to have prostitution that flocks to that area, right? Whenever you have a port of call like San Francisco is, and like the Bay Area is. So as a result, it was kind of a deep-rooted problem, and Oakland PD just really, really cracked down on it, which is why it was so disheartening when this big scandal broke that Oakland PD officers had been involved in the term that was used is trafficking an underage prostitute. And it didn't seem to me that they were necessarily selling the services of this girl, but they were using the services of this girl. So it's not like one of them was pimping her out or anything like that, but they were still engaged in trafficking from the customer, from the consumer, from the John side, right? Which still, it can't go on if you're not, without customers, it won't go on. Right, so they're still supporting it, and these are the guys who are supposed to not be involved in that sort of thing. Sure. So they're the very ones who are not supposed to be involved in it, and it started because an officer saw this girl running from her pimp, and so he steps in to intercede, and there was the start of an inappropriate relationship that spiraled out of control.
But is this a juvenile or an adult?
It was a juvenile at the time, yes. And actually, we're gonna let's run that clip on that, and then it'll explain that she was a juvenile at the time it happened. Now she's not. That's why they're showing her picture, and they're showing footage and interviews with her, et cetera, et cetera. And this is why she's, come out and talked about it. Because
new information from a woman at the center of a sex scandal that has rocked the Oakland Police Department. The evidence indicating that officers tipped her off about undercover prostitution stings. Good evening, I'm Brian Hackney.
And I'm Juliette Goodrich. Reporter Daw Lynn broke this story last night and today has the shocking new allegations.
The accusation is now more than just sex and statutory rape involving police officers. Now there's evidence pointing to officers giving a teenage prostitute undercover operation intel. This 18-year-old teenager, who goes by Celeste Guap, admits she slept with 24 officers from various police departments. She tells me she's had sex with 14 Oakland police officers, 5 Richmond cops, 3 from San Francisco PD, 1 in Stockton, 1 in Livermore, 4 Alameda County, and 3 Contra Costa County Sheriff's deputies. She says in exchange, some officers gave her protection and tipped her off about undercover operations while she was working as a prostitute. She gave me this cell phone screenshot showing her text conversation with an Oakland cop who goes by the nickname Superman. Superman wrote, "Be safe today. Want some advice?" Celeste replied, "Tell me, handsome." The cop said, "Stay off East 14 from Fruitvale to 42nd tonight. There's a UC operation, meaning undercover prostitution sting." Celeste wrote back, "Damn, LOL." The officer said, "No, you're not. Just giving you a heads up." She flirted by saying, "Thank you, Daddy. I appreciate it. I don't want to go to jail, LOL." In another text conversation with a different Oakland officer, we're blurring out his name and picture since KPIX5 hasn't been able to confirm it came from his phone. Celeste asked the officer, "Is it gonna be hot in Oakland tonight?" Meaning, will there be any undercover operations targeting prostitutes? The officer wrote, "Yup, who told you?" Celeste replied, "Nobody. That's why I'm mad." The officer said, "I told you last night, or tried to, but you were drunk."
I was happy to, wow, these men in uniform, giving me protection and, like it was mutual.
Out of the 24 officers she had sex with, she says she slept with 3 of them when she was a minor, all 3 with the Oakland Police Department. The sex started when she was just 16. She says some of the officers would introduce her to other fellow officers, basically passing her around, mostly via Facebook and Instagram. She gave me a text conversation with another Oakland officer. We're also blurring out the officer's name and a picture Celeste texted him. The picture shows her having sex with someone else. The officer asked, "You enjoy that, or was that an old pic?" Celeste said, "LOL, that was like a month ago. It was cool. I'm sure you would be better." The officer wrote back, "I know I could. I'm not gonna lie, kinda hot seeing you having sex. How often do you be having sex with officers?" Celeste says the sex all happened while the officers were off duty, a lot of times in their personal cars and sometimes in hotel rooms. Some of the officers were married. She's now cooperating with investigators. So far, the Oakland and Richmond police departments have launched internal investigations.
Thinking back at it, I thought, oh wow, they care about me. Thinking back at it, yeah, I do see myself as being a victim because I do feel like I was taken advantage of.
I asked Celeste if she plans to sue the Oakland Police Department. She says she hasn't made up her mind. She says she doesn't want to because both her mother and her stepfather are OPD dispatchers and work with these officers. In Oakland, I'm Daw Lynn, KPIX5.
Wow, this story just keeps getting deeper and deeper and twistier and turnier.
Boy, it's really hard, and I'm just going to be honest with you. It's really hard for me to think of this chick as a victim. Just listening to what she's saying.
Now listen, and I would agree with you in terms of the fact that she was already an experienced and somewhat hardened, clearly, prostitute when this came about. But she was only 16. She's not able to give consent legally, right, at the age of 16. So she was a victim. I know what you're saying in terms of why did she save those text messages for all those years, right, and have screenshots, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact of the matter is she was 16 years old, and these dudes are supposed to know better. These aren't construction workers.
Right.
Right? These aren't a bunch of, bus drivers sitting around. These are guys who knew what they were doing was not what they were supposed to be doing.
I can understand why you would say that too, and I don't know why why it's considered necessarily trafficking with her, because trafficking is more people who are stolen or and then moved from place to place against their will. This story, I didn't really hear about this. I read something slightly different more about later on when the police were then, once she turned 18, were then paying her. For sex.
Right.
But a police officer approached her. I mean, he's almost definitely a,
like a predator.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Predator. When seeing her run away from a pimp, if that's the way it really happened, and then approaching a girl when she's in a vulnerable state, that's all she knows really is probably sex at that point.
So she's 16.
Yeah, and then
and honestly, she ain't that bright now. So imagine at 16, she's she's somebody who had been taken advantage of.
Right. I get I get all that about her being 16 and the predatory behavior by the officer, and it was criminal, and he should go to jail for that.
Well, that officer is dead. Actually, that officer who did that committed suicide. Okay. Here, let's dig a little deeper here.
Well,
okay?
but let me just make my point, though.
Okay, go ahead.
So beyond that, when I'm watching her and listening to her interview here, and when she called herself a victim, I've seen victims before. I've interviewed victims before. And as a experienced investigator, one of my skills is watching people, listening to them speak, and then making an assessment that's pretty accurate about whether they're telling the truth or not.
Right.
And when I just watch this chick giggling,
she's nonchalant about sex.
I do kind of think I am a victim now. It's like, okay,
she doesn't know any better.
She's been coached. It sounds
well,
to me like
she's been coached. She's been made to see the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Yeah. But also, her situation is she had been a prostitute for how long?
Her parents work for the damn police deparpment, for God's sakes.
Yeah. So something.
She knew exactly what she was doing. She was moving into to an area she knew with people she knew. I mean.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing too. And we'll get back into that after the break. But let me say this:
my violin is just broken right now.
She is being very nonchalant about it because she wasn't some girl working at Chick-fil-A who got seduced by some predatory police officer. She was a prostitute, so she's going to be nonchalant about that kind of thing more so than anybody else would be. It's just like we talk about work probably. So listen, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. You can call in at 323-293-3375. You can send us a tweet at Right Along Radio. And let's hear your comments on this topic. I know it's kind of a hot button topic right now. So we'll be right back. All right. And so, hey, we're back here at the Right Along Radio Show, 323-293-3375. Our topic is the Oakland PD underage sex trafficking scandal. And we've showed a video about that. And
I think when
let me reintroduce our guest real quick.
Okay.
This is Erin Umphenour from She Is, which is a organization that's dedicated to helping victims of sex trafficking. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, that's what I was just going to say, that I think when regular people, but people like me, right? When we hear sex trafficking, I'm thinking children snatched up.
Right, that's what I was saying earlier. And
sex
put in the Connex
slaves
box and sent off
somewhere.
someplace, right, overseas.
It's hard for me to view the chick we just saw in the Oakland PD scandal. It's hard for me to put her in that sex trafficking
Well, here's
victim
what's happened.
Category.
The definition is wider than we know, I think is what it is. So technically this falls into trafficking because even, I don't know, I heard that there was some compensation, but here's how I heard that the definition of that compensation was. They were giving her information. It was quid pro quo. It was, we're going to give you protection, and then the exchange there would be sex.
So
I'm going to give you information.
But they were giving her protection so she could run her business, which was prostitution.
Right.
Right.
And trafficking was, hey, I'm going to hook you up with my homeboy over here, or this captain at the station, because there was a captain implicated. In fact, there are two captains implicated in this.
It's always the captain. That's what I always say.
The captain did it. There was two captains implicated in this. So it was, hey, she got passed around from officer to officer. And there's your trafficking right there, the fact that our officers were passing her around. Now, the majority of these officers was after she was already an adult. But she started off at 16 years old and had this sex with the 3.
I get that. I mean, I get that it's illegal. I get that it's wrong. I'm just saying.
But trafficking, they weren't sending her out. They didn't have her take out an ad in Backpage.
I'm just going to tell you that people like me,
Craigslist or whatever,
people just normal guys like me, normal folks like me, right? My family and non-law enforcement friends. We're concerned about children like in the system, in halfway houses, in foster homes. You know, I know that 1 in 3 females before the age of 18 is sexually abused in some way. That's a lot, you know. And I raised a daughter, and I raised her with all these concerns. You know, my primary concern was my daughter's safety, no matter where she was going.
Exactly.
She was going to a friend's house. I had to go there first. I had to meet the parents. Wanted to talk to them, see them eye to eye.
Right.
And that's how we did that.
That's really great. I mean, the biggest thing with children and what we try to do is to just educate, and because it's out there, predators are out there. It is, people can't think that it's not going to happen to me or to my kid. So parents being educated, especially with social media, all the different apps that kids are using now, which is how some people get accidentally trafficked into it. They have this phone, and now they're
and they
using,
get talked into things by somebody who their parents don't even know they're talking to.
Exactly.
Well, and you know what? This show, this topic, rather, is good because even though this isn't the most sympathetic victim, it gives us the opportunity to shine the light on the larger topic. People who actually are more victim-like in their demeanor and their situation, and it gives us a chance to bring in somebody with an organization that's going to talk about this broader problem. So we kind of have to look past her because she's an adult now, and she's going to get paid. We know that.
Because
and that doesn't make it right, because the problem is she was getting paid all along.
Right.
But I mean, she will have some sort of recourse and compensation that will set her up if she chooses to allow it to.
Right.
Kind of. I don't want to say compensate, but there's damages that will be awarded, and rightfully so. But let me back up, and I was going to talk about this earlier. How this all came to light. There was an Officer O'Brien who was the one who saved her from the pimp, and Officer O'Brien was in a short marriage. His wife killed herself. Now, those of you listening, or you listen on the podcast, you can't see, but I'm making air quotes when I'm saying killed herself. Okay.
Wow.
And it was suspicious from the very beginning, and there were people who said, I don't know about that. That looked kind of funny, especially since she was shot in the head twice. Okay.
Well, you can get that muscle.
The muscle read the boom boom. Sure. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So I guess that was.
So I've heard.
So I've heard, right? Allegedly, right? So that was the thing that made it look funny. But I guess they said, all right, we'll look at it. They really looked at it, and the coroner ruled it as a suicide, although it was investigated as a homicide. About a year and a half, 2 years later, this Officer O'Brien then kills himself. And he leaves behind a note that not only kind of implicates himself in his wife's death, but it lays out all these dudes in this girl Celeste Guap, and this tells the whole story. And the victim's family, the wife's family, then takes this and goes to these 2 reporters for the East Bay Express, and they broke the story, and that's what all this came out. So there was a whole lot of chicanery going on, and Oakland PD and law enforcement. There's the difference between Southern California cops and Northern California cops, particularly those in the Bay Area / Silicon Valley, okay? We tend to be a little more militant, a little more aggressive. There's agencies up there where guys in uniform got ponytails. Militaristic, I mean.
Aggressive.
Okay, that's what I mean. Militarized. How about that?
Militarized the work.
Not militant like Huey Newton militant.
Right. Fight the power.
Right. But like a little more militarized. I've seen agencies in the up north where guys got ponytails in uniform and beards, and they're calling the lieutenant by his first name, but you're a brand new officer. And hey, Joe. So they got a different kind of vibe, but not Oakland. Oakland is known as a hard-charging kind of ram and jam agency. Oakland, chases people, fights people, puts people in jail. They shoot people. They're hard chargers.
They're run and gun.
They're kind of like that football team up there, and they are known to be kind of rough and tumble, not necessarily like they're scandal plagued, although this isn't the first scandal.
Right.
There was an Oakland Rider some years ago, which is kind of like their gang enforcement unit, which was maybe a little too heavy-handed for the people's taste in Oakland.
It was the Occupy movement up there.
No, I think it was before that, wasn't it? I think it was even before that. They were kind of.
I know, but I just thought the way they handled Occupy.
Oh yeah, no. Oakland PD, no punks. I mean, they were out there doing their thing.
Yep.
So for something like this to happen, to a police agency that's got a reputation for being so hard nosed and being hard on crime, particularly this sort of crime, is really just a big blow. As a result, so they had a chief of police resign in early June. It was abrupt, but it was for personal reasons, allegedly. This is all milling around the background.
He wasn't on that list, was he, the chief?
Well, so we don't know.
Oh,
okay. Right. So then a temporary chief comes in. That chief lasts about 6 days. Then that chief abruptly resigns. Then they bring in a third interim chief. He lasts 3 days. And now he resigns. And then finally the mayor of Oakland says, you know what? I'm not running a frat house here, running a police department. There's going to be civilian oversight of the police department. And then she steps in. And now the police department has no chief, at least for the time being. The problem with that is this. I'm sure that mayor, and I'm sure she's very bright and she's accomplished. She's a mayor of a major city. But I bet you she doesn't do her own taxes. You know why? Because you do your own taxes, you're going to miss a step. You don't know what you're doing, so you could shortcut yourself. And if you mess it up bad enough, you could go to prison. Well, it's the same thing trying to run a police department when you don't have a law enforcement background. There are things that go on. There are things you need to be aware of. There are things you need to understand that you just don't know. And that's why you have a chief of police. And then the chief of police, worst case scenario, is a fall guy that you get to fire if something goes sideways. And he's the buffer between you and accountability to the voters if something goes bad in the police department. But when you're the mayor and the police chief, or you're just saying they're reporting directly to me, you've removed that buffer. Now, that's great in terms, that's really brave of her, but it's not real smart. And I don't think that's going to bode well for the city of Oakland. Maybe they just need to go outside and grab a chief from completely outside of that. The chief of Richmond is gay, so maybe they can bring him over because he probably hasn't slept with her. He's a great chief from what I understand, too. Bring him over and say, okay, you're going to run Oakland Police Department because you probably didn't sleep with her. So here we go. Because you saw the list. The list was long, man. She slept with 14 Oakland cops.
This is the new America. Huh?
This is, hey, you know, they had, she slept with like 14 Oakland cops and 3 Contra County guys and 5 guys from Richmond and a guy from Stockton. I mean, the list was long, right?
Or how about they slept with her?
Well, yeah, okay, that too. But, you know, they probably don't even know each other. She knows all of them, so she's the central point. But I know what you're saying. But only 3 of them was when she was underage, right?
Right.
After that, then she's an adult and then you know, whatever. And so this is where we talk about trafficking, because they said that they were introducing her to other officers, right, through Facebook. Now, you know, I understand there's a thing called cop groupies, okay, allegedly.
Badge Bunny.
That's what I heard, okay?
So we've heard.
Sure. Badge Bunnies, Donut Dollies, Beat Babes, whatever you want to call them, right? I hear guys talk about it, right? I don't know. So as a result, there is this sort of activity that goes on, but it's not like with prostitutes. I mean, it's like, I don't understand. I don't understand why they chose to go this route when it was so, morality of it aside, when it was so illegal and it was so unethical. That's what I don't get.
Right. Cops are a funny group because you get in and out of dangerous situations, and after you do that for a while, you know, you really do begin to feel, and this is, you know, one of the things I learned in therapy years later was that feelings aren't facts.
Right.
But you begin to feel like you can't be touched. It's like, I'm the police.
They're getting touched now.
I can do what I want to do. So you can't, this might not look good, but I'm the police. And I'll write it up, and when I get done writing, I'll be good, and you be going to jail.
Right. You could say that, but now there's camera phones. Yeah. And now there's all sort of video and all sort of nonsense that guys get caught up in like that.
The thing is, somebody's going to tell. And when you have too many people like that, somebody's going to tell, and that's what's going to bring you down.
Well, and then the whole part is this dude, the guy who killed himself.
Yeah.
So I guess he wanted to unburden his conscience before he...
Yeah, you know, everybody, you know, even gang members and cops are, you know, they kind of have the same mentality. And I remember a long time ago when I was a gang guy, when I was on the intervention side. I was the gang intervention coordinator for the city.
Right, I remember that.
And we looked at there was a study, and it looked at gang members and it looked at police officers. And it found that so many similarities between the two. They had similar backgrounds. They were raised in similar houses. They came from similar kind of families. They had similar beliefs about things. And
listen, it's not unusual to have police officers who have siblings that are criminals.
Right. So the line is very thin between any cop anytime can step over, because when you're doing street enforcement of crimes, you're walking right up to the legal line, and sometimes you may even tiptoe over. And you justify it by, well, I'm taking down the bad guy, and so therefore.
Right, and that's how you get people, that's a slippery slope.
That's how you
That's
get
a slippery slope, right?
You do that enough, and then pretty soon you're stepping over the line. Then you get to a point where, hey, there's no line for me because I'm the police.
And then that's how you end up in the penitentiary.
Right.
That's how you end up writing a suicide note with a gun in your mouth, implicating getting involved in all this nonsense.
Right. But here's what I was going to say is that, gang members will tell you, I take it to the grave, homeboy. I got the tattoo.
Yeah, right.
We're going to take it to the grave. I don't say nothing. I'm not going to tell nobody, homie.
Right.
Put you in the box, and you're looking at it.
They get in there and sing it, start singing like Usher, man.
And cops are even worse, because cops generally are good guys. They generally have a conscience and want to do good. And so when you put that kind of pressure on a cop, he can't just dismiss it like a
And he doesn't have the practice. He wasn't a screw-up in school his whole life. He doesn't have the practice of keeping a straight face while telling a lie, et cetera, et cetera.
So
typically, yeah.
That's why they end up eating their guns.
Yeah, because the guilt, right? The guilt. And the fact that he killed his wife, apparently. So that's, that's a terrible thing. So now, back to what you said about they all slept with her and not she slept with them. This is a situation where you have to wonder, what was the tipping point? Like, at what point did the line get blurred for somebody to think this was not just one somebody, but several somebodies to think this is okay? Again, I don't put that on her at all, because she was so young and because she had been so thoroughly victimized. Remember, she's running from her pimp now. So,
where were her Oakland PD parents? Where was the dispatchers?
They were dispatching. So who knows, man? If they're both at work.
Know that. I didn't know that part of the story, that her parents were dispatchers.
Yeah. Her mother and her stepfather. But you know what? You see it happen all the time. Hell, we've had chiefs of police of the city of Los Angeles and sheriffs of the county of Los Angeles whose kids were screw up. We had a mayor of Los Angeles whose kid was a real major screw up.
Right.
So that just happens. It's unfortunate, but
So can I just get back to the sex trafficking that victims that you work with?
Mm-hmm.
Are these mostly minors? Are they juveniles? Yeah. Are there any adults that you do this with?
So we do work with with CAST, which are actually adults, and they're homeless, and with homelessness there are a lot of people who have been sexually abused.
Sure.
We do focus on children though. We work with kids typically from the ages 13 to 18. When we were in Thailand, there were kids as young as 10 and 11 years
Yikes.
old. Here, we also work with Maryvale, who rescues kids from neglect or abusive homes. Also, many of them have had some sort of sexual abuse in their growing up as a kid. So here in the U.S., there's only just a few that actually generate hope. In San Diego, they do actually they provide housing for victims of who have been rescued from sex trafficking. I'm not sure, you may or may not know that San Francisco and San Diego are big ports for trafficking, and it is because trafficking typically is what you thought it was when kids are stolen or and they are shipped abroad to maybe another country.
So when we see these reports of there used to be on the sides of milk cartons, but just children just disappearing.
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking? Like, are these the kids that are just disappearing and someone is taking them and pimping them out either somewhere in the United States or somewhere abroad?
Yeah. There are many things that maybe where that child might go, but that's definitely a good option.
One of the fates they might suffer, huh?
Yeah, I mean, and ways. So say Maryvale, for instance, is a place that has holds kids and tries to reintegrate them into the world and school them and educate them, bringing them from their home of abuse. Well, once they turn a certain age, they can leave. I think, I don't know what age, definitely 18, but there are predators that wait outside of these places for kids to leave who do not want to be there anymore. And
outside of that, so they know that's like a little fishing hole for them, or watering hole.
And they know that it's vulnerable, that the kids are vulnerable, and they will coerce them into prostitution. Usually here in the U.S. is prostitution, because they will take them to Las Vegas. There are so many places around here in the United States where it's obviously not legal, but it occurs.
Right. Well, what is the issue at the border? So is the sex trafficking part of the illegal immigrant trafficking that is coming across? I mean, Coyote is bringing across children that are later then prostituted here, or is the border an issue in this or not?
I do not know. I'm not sure about that. Okay. What we do know is especially we've done a lot of work in Thailand. We've been there 3 times, and we work with this really great organization called Destiny Rescue. We do not do the rescuing, so we go in with the healing, the aftercare. They are an organization that actually do go into brothels. It costs them about $1,500 on average to save one child from karaoke bars or brothels.
No, when you say they go in, what do you mean? How
undercover,
do they
go in as a guest or as a
trick, basically.
Well, as a customer, they go in, and
I've heard about this,
So they get to know these. They look for underage kids because they can't do too much about people who are over 18.
Sure.
So they look for the 13, 14-year-olds that are in there. It's really hard for them to convince these kids to trust them because they've already been manipulated once.
Sure.
These kids will be in school. And a madam or a girl, even their age, might come and say, "Hey, I have this really great opportunity for you, where you can make money for your family." Some of these kids are kidnapped by their cousins and then sold into the mafia, into sex trafficking. Wow. Some are sold by their parents. Their parents might have owe money on the big opiate use over there in Thailand. Sure. So if they owe money to the mafia for their drugs, they might have 6 or 7 kids, and they go, "Well, let's just sell our daughter for $300.
Wow.
$300 US. That's like what they'll take to sell their kid into sex trafficking. Some girls do it on their own. They think that, but they're really shameful over there in Thailand. What we've noticed with the girls, they're not proud. So when we bring dancing over there, it's really a magnificent thing what we bring to them because they are really bottled up. They are. It's so hard for them to come out of their shells. And when they start dancing, they just feel much better. Here, working with the kids here, it's very different. As I was telling you, like on break, it's different here in the United States because of the way the U.S. glorifies sex. The way we look.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by the U.S.? Like, who's the U.S., number one, and then how do you mean glorify?
Well, I guess our society here, with the magazines, with celebrities, and the way people dress, and it's just looked at, dressing sexy. That's not the Thai culture. So it's not the culture of
more conservative.
Even in India as well. It's not. So it's very different. I'm not saying one is necessarily better than the other. It's just the difference in the way the children behave here versus what we deal with.
So what we're exposing kids to in those early stages of development.
Yeah, they don't feel. I mean, I think that more so adults that are in prostitution, they don't see it. They don't see it as such a bad thing when they're getting shoes and purses and.
Well, that's the thing, and think of this: it's a pop culture cliche in movies, TV shows, and songs that they have the quote unquote hooker with the heart of gold, right? How many movies has that person been in? Pretty Woman, to My Fair Lady. To a bunch of different movies where this person is a prostitute, but they're maybe not happy about being a prostitute, but they're just doing it while they pay their way through dental school or whatever, you know what I mean? Or the kid's sister's got cancer, and whatever the story is, and it's made to be something that is not quite so bad. There's another thing I take exception to. The flip side of that, we use this word pimp and we throw it around like it's cool, right? Like it's a compliment to pimp your ride, right? And that pimps are seen as the epitome of cool and being slick, and people aspire to that look or to that whole vibe. And if you really know and understand what that's about, it's a very foul business, right? But we don't look at it that way in pop culture and what we're exposed to as a consumers with the media market in this country. But again, the other one, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. Everybody ever see that? Dolly Parton? Did you see that?
No.
Okay. Okay. All right, Gil.
I don't like musicals.
But you knew it was a musical.
I
See?
did know
He
that.
He don't know what I'm talking about, though.
I used to call it the Best Little
Probably
Warehouse.
recite the credits. The Best Little Warehouse, right? Yeah, okay. Well, it was a warehouse. But anyway, that was something where, again, it's a musical, and Dolly Parton, who's a conservative icon, is portraying this fancy madam. There's all these things where they really gloss over what goes on in the sex trade.
Sure.
You know, and that may be another reason that it's not quite so bad or not quite so hard to recruit somebody into that, because they don't really see how raggedy it is until they get into it.
Well, I think there's kind of different levels of prostitution. I think what we're talking about is street level street pimps. But when Heidi Fleiss ran her little thing here for politicians and Hollywood, I think most people view that as just kind of victimless crime with consenting adults.
Right, because everybody's an adult. Everybody's making a bunch of money. Nobody's getting beat up. Doesn't mean they don't have drug problems, because Heidi Fleiss had a drug problem.
Yeah, most of Hollywood does.
Yeah,
that's why they're so liberal.
Doesn't mean, well, she wasn't Hollywood. She's not, she's not an actress or a producer or anything. She's just a
no,
pimp.
but the clients.
She's a pimp. What Heidi Fleiss is, right?
Right.
And so that's a situation where people look at it like that and say, oh, okay, everybody's there because they want to be there. And I think you'd have a very hard time convincing most people that those women are being exploited.
Right.
But when we're talking about somebody who is 10 years old, 14, 15, all the way up to really 17 years old, and there's people older than that who are being exploited. They're being manipulated either through verbal force or physical force, being controlled into doing this. But again, when somebody's 10 years old, I don't think there's any doubt that that's a victim.
Yeah, it's even younger in like Pattaya, Thailand. I mean, like 5 years old. It's really it's something else.
We got a tweet from Ishmael, and Ishmael, thanks for the tweets. Keep them coming. Is it true that predators go to countries and places that have had a natural disaster to get children and teens? I haven't heard that. Is that have you heard of that? Is that being like a way to exploit that?
I would imagine. I mean, predators, they know definitely where they're going to find victims. Any people.
Well,
that
you
are
said they were waiting
vulnerable.
outside the place, outside the facility, right?
Yeah, I don't know, and I've never heard of an exact story of waiting out for
We'll have to look
after
into
a natural
that.
disaster.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know they take these trips to Thailand.
Yeah, the sex
specifically
tourism.
For that.
Sex
Correct.
tourism, right, because it's legal there, and they go and get their freak on and let the freak flag fly and do all this other stuff that you can never do here.
Everywhere you go.
Everywhere you go.
Mm-hmm.
So now here's the other thing, and you've heard about this, the bus stations in these major cities, particularly Hollywood bus stations are known for that. These pimps go up and hang around, and they wait to see that girl get off that bus by herself, and she's wide-eyed because she's in Hollywood, and she's got one suitcase, and she's looking for somebody to kind of, help her out or show her the way or whatever, and become an instant victim.
I'm a producer, Steph.
Yeah, I'm a producer. Yeah, sure.
I'm an agent. I can make you famous.
Yeah, I was just waiting for you to get off that bus from Esterville, Iowa, girl, and I knew you. I can make all your dreams come true, right? And they go for that because they don't know any better, and it's really it's really sad.
Well, and teenagers don't have that filter. Their brain's not even fully developed till they're like 21, so they don't have that filter to accurately gauge threat. You know, they go, oh, okay, well, that sounds reasonable. At 14, I think I know everything anyway. That's what my daughter was.
And that's why again, education. It is such a big, huge thing that is possible, and parents talking to their kids about what is right and what is wrong and how to be cautious and to not trust. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. You can't trust people with what they say. So and with the media, the social media stuff, I mean, like you said, getting off a bus, there are over 1 million predators on the internet at any given moment. Wow. So they're looking for kids that say, I hate my parents.
Yep.
I want to get out of here. And they're like, oh, hey, I've got a really great opportunity for you.
Yep, I can help you out with that.
And then they start, building that relationship, building that trust, and then, unfortunately, the next thing they know, the child is
exploited.
Gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Raising a daughter, I know you have a daughter also. That was my. I had sons, right? I didn't really think about it with my sons. It never gave me a second thought. But when I had a daughter, it did.
Sure.
Her safety, and I really felt like keeping her safe was my primary job.
Right.
And that was open communication. And I'll never forget. I wanted my daughter to have a voice, right? I wanted to raise her to have her own voice, and boy, does she. but I remember.
Yeah, mine too.
I remember when she was.
She's sitting back there, so I'm looking over at her.
My daughter was about 5 years old, and it was time to go to bed. And I said, "Okay," so, she just come out of the tubby. I said, "Okay, sweetie, let's get your pajamas on." And she grabbed her pajamas and stuff, and she went like this, and she said, "Can I have my privacy, please?" and I looked at her and I just thought, wow, this is exactly what I wanted. I want her to speak out and say what she wants. And so I said, yes, you may. And I, let me know when you're done. And I closed the door and went in. But that was just part. From my perspective,
mindset early on.
I'm doing something right because she's willing to say. She's starting to feel like my dad shouldn't be in here anymore.
Right. Sure. Have her own boundaries.
Exactly.
That's good stuff.
And that was pretty cool. So
now, Erin, you have. Your documentary is you have some funding needs and you guys are trying to raise awareness, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Where can people go to watch, get the information, to watch the video we saw earlier, and to help you guys raise some of the funding for that?
So we do have a campaign running on Indiegogo right now. If you go to the Indiegogo website and you can search She Is documentary, it's the first one to come up. We have a goal of raising $35,000.
Which doesn't seem like that much.
It really doesn't seem like until you have to try to raise it, I guess, right?
Yeah, definitely. And we're 2 weeks in and we're almost about 40%. But really the first week or so was kind of the easiest part because we reached out to all of our friends and family and everyone that wants to support. So now we've hit that slump of, reaching out to broader audiences, people that want to help. So you can read all about all of our backgrounds, what we do, and more information about what we want to do with our documentary, which is just, we want to, with $35,000, we'll be able to travel and take a film crew with us. And we want to go to India, back to Thailand, and also here in the United States and follow the journey of a child who is being, is going through the process of being rescuing. Because, I don't think we've had a few sex scandals happen just, recently with Stanford and Duke, like a few years ago, which was kind of on the other.
Wasn't there just a recent story about it was a huge number of sexual predators arrested in California?
Oh, right, like 200 and something. The sheriff did a sting someplace. I don't remember which county it was.
I don't remember what the details are, but
that just happened.
I just thought the number was just humongous. I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, it is. It's bigger than. I mean, traveling across the United States, you'll go to, like a small town, and you would never expect it, and it's there. It's there too. Wow. But when kids are rescued, the whole aftercare, people don't think about what happens. So with Stanford, there's a lot of talk about Brock Turner and him being the the criminal and everything. But what about the victim? What about her? unfortunately, there are a lot of people who need help. And once they are rescued with Destiny Rescue, they go through their first stages are under suicidal watch, because once they are rescued, that's when all of their trauma really starts to come out, because they think, wow, now I'm safe. Now I'm safe, and I don't have to feel numb anymore, because this their feelings start to come out. So they're under suicide watch for, and then they go through therapy, and then they go through a few years of then going to school, and then they give them jobs to help them reintegrate into the world. So, therapy is not talking about their feelings and things. It's not always easy or fun. And so that's why we do what we do, which is it has been just an incredible journey. We're all professional dancers, as you saw in the video.
Right.
So to bring our passion for dance and how it makes us feel, and to share it with kids who don't know how to dance, but they are just learning to move their bodies and enjoy their bodies. Right. Yeah, because they look at their bodies like damaged goods.
Right, and that, I hadn't even thought about that in terms of them using their bodies for something that they're in control of.
Exactly.
Something that they want to do that's beautiful and expressive. Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yep. So Indiegogo, She Is, and we every dollar counts. Whether it's $1, whether it's $5 or more. We have these great perks with every. If you hit a certain level, we've got our great T-shirts. We have posters of a really fabulous, well-written poem that we have one of our dancers dancing to, or if not, just sharing. And it's not even just about, we want to create this documentary to help bring awareness to how serious it is, and to hopefully prevent kids growing up today from ever being in the position of being touched in ways that they do not want to be.
Right. Well, it's a very worthy cause, and keep checking the Ride Along Radio page. We'll put links up. We'll make sure that the word gets out amongst our audience.
It makes me think that there's so much going on, so much good stuff happening, and we had Stephanie, and got Erin, and we can get so sidetracked with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. And just, really
to distract you from the real stuff.
Beyond
that,
right? to this, and
well, it'll be done in a couple of months either way. Yeah. So we can get back to real life, whatever that looks like.
Then it's going to be, whatever it's going to be.
New battles.
Yeah.
New battles. Yeah.
But this is good stuff. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, really appreciate you coming in, and good luck. And again, we'll do what we can to put the word out. So we're going to start wrapping it up here. Our social media is, you can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram at Ride Along Radio Show. You can follow us on Twitter at Ride Along Radio. Or you can send us an email at ridealongradioshow@gmail.com if you have questions, comments, or suggestions for future show topics. Our favorite forum, though, is the YouTube channel. Leave your comments on YouTube for the show. We check that constantly, pretty much. And we either respond to those comments in that form, or we'll respond to them on the air here, which is actually our favorite way to respond, because then we can get it out there to everybody at once.
Especially, but today we haven't, because it was a more serious show. But usually we offend somebody at some point with something. That
right, exactly.
Usually it's George, not me. I'm the more.
Yeah, right. You can tell.
I'm the more, I don't know, the gentle one.
He's a kinder, gentler Gil.
I'm the
today.
Kinder, gentler Hispanic.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, he's usually Hispanic causing panic, right? That's Gil. So. All right, so we're going to start wrapping it up, and we'll catch you guys next week here on the Ride Along Radio Show. Keep watching our channel here and our Facebook page for our next topic, and we'll get the word out, and we'll see you guys then. Be safe.
Thank you.